Oh. Hey guys.
So man, I rolled over in the Mustang today. I had a nice day going, and thought, let me drop the top on this Mustang, and I'm gonna roll over to Ken's house and do a little convertible driving. I had some fun. It was nice day out. The weather's perfect for it.
Was it a good ride then, huh?
Oh yeah, man.
Cool.
There's nothing like driving a classic car that you're totally in control of yourself. You know, there's no.
Right.
I don't have any computer control. I don't have traction control. I don't have ABS brakes. I don't have any of that crap. It's just all raw feel of the road, and I just dig that, man.
Right. So what year is that car?
It's an 86 GT.
Oh, Fox body.
Yeah,
okay.
little Fox body
Very
Mustang.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
I've had it a while. I enjoy it.
Oh yeah, no, that's nice. I like it. Didn't know much about it, but it's a neat looking car.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So you need to enjoy that freedom while you can. You know that, right?
Yeah, it looks like we're getting to the point of the autonomous car taking over.
Which I think is absolutely hilarious because I could just see you sitting in a car, letting it drive you somewhere.
Road Rage City. I'd be mad. I'd be so mad by the time I got wherever it was. It wouldn't be worth going.
It would give you more time for props. I mean, think about it. You'd be like Carrot Top. You'd have a box full of crap in your car.
That's true.
Hanging rubber chickens out the window.
Liberal thinker is going to sneak up behind you and grab your keys and drive your car into a car crusher.
Yeah,
you know,
the swath of dead would be amazing at that point. I'd go nuts. There's no way.
It's shocking that how close to real that statement was.
That's
I
true.
mean, these people, it just never ends.
No,
it never ends. I mean, so we're watching this whole autonomous car develop, and don't get me wrong, the technology's pretty cool. I mean, I think we all agree we like technology. We like to see things that work and grow, but this is just a little bit over the top. It's too much.
Well, it's one of the things that when we really delve down into it, it can really be used for evil purposes, which we'll get to later in the broadcast. But
yeah,
it really can be used for nefarious purposes, which I don't appreciate. So this all started, from what I can tell, from. And I think this is a planned event, but it all started with like the Lexus. Remember, they came out with the Lexus that you could drive up to the curb and push the button, and the car would turn itself and parallel park itself all perfect. And everybody's like, ooh, ah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they were all fascinated with the fact.
Didn't realize that it was pointing out people's inability to park a car.
You're too stupid to park. That's what it should have said on the button. You're too stupid to park. Press this.
And it ended up being like the bar scanner at a grocery store where they said, "Oh, it'll save you time," and then you just click, and doesn't ring it up.
Right.
Something's not right, and had all kinds of trouble with that system.
Right.
They were backing into fire hydrants. They were hitting other cars.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. They did that with pickup trucks, I think.
Yep,
too.
they did.
And
Cadillac hit it next, and then you had pickup trucks doing it and whatnot.
So the idea that you're going to take, first of all, the dude that's driving the pickup truck's driving that truck for a reason.
Right.
You think he's going to turn over the wheel to some autonomous entity that's going to say, "Hey, hold my beer, let's watch this"?
Exactly.
I mean, you're supposed to be going forward when you make that statement, not backwards. But then again, some guys do go backwards when they do that.
Then you had Mercedes come out with the car that had the sensor systems that would brake and stop and alert you, and it would apply the brakes for you. Another feature that I just don't get. Are you too stupid to drive? That's basically another feature that basically says I'm incapable to drive the car.
Side mirror warnings when the car got close. Oh, I remember all those things. It would start blinking and beeping and making noise.
Just something else to go wrong and something else to break.
That one, they had trouble with the ABS systems engaging in those vehicles. A lot of people didn't realize that the ABS was a jerky movement, not a smooth brake.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people were jumping in, taking control of the vehicle, and actually crashing and rolling them.
Right.
Which, you know, you would think that they would just, instead of taking a college student or a scientist out of a lab and say, "Hey, drive this car and give me a report," which are probably the most boring drivers in the world, right?
Right.
You need to give it to a dude that's going to drive that car.
Yeah.
Like one of us.
Yeah, give it to a dude with a mullet.
Go find
have a couple of beers.
Go find yourself a Ricky Bobby.
I'm telling you. I mean, they're missing the boat on this.
You ain't first, you're last.
Well, there's two gains of this. One, you're going to get great data from what the average guy is going to use.
Sure.
Then you got great YouTube footage.
Right.
I mean, there's going to be some great shit come down the pike on this one.
Whatever you lose in actual revenue,
Right.
the YouTube channel will pay up for it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They'll make up the difference.
These income streams.
So you guys need to start calling us for this kind of stuff because this is the kind of think tank we are.
$1,000 ideas all day long.
All day long. Dollar bills everywhere. It's crazy. I don't know. I just sit there. And we laugh about some of this stuff, but there's probably more of a dark side to this too.
I think so.
I mean, I used to work for a company, and the CFO was responsible for cars, and he hated the fact that we had to give cars gas guzzling, and he even said this in a meeting: gas guzzling, pollution creating cars to our employees. And I was sitting there going, wow, really? I mean,
what constitutes a gas guzzling car?
Anything that made emissions. In his mind, it should have been Prius and
a
better.
Tesla or whatever.
Yeah, automatic electric cars.
Okay, so these are the ones who want to keep hugging the planet.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so, of course, it's unrealistic as you look at the price and the maintenance of those cars. It's just not realistic. But it starts with people that think like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, what do you think's in those batteries that run those cars?
Lithium,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that lithium is a dangerous...
What do you think that does? Anybody ever put their brain to that and say, hey, what's this going to do when I put it in the landfill?
One of the first comments I ever heard about those batteries was, hey, what happens when one of those batteries goes sideways?
Right. And explodes.
Now you're talking about a rolling hydrogen bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they have to do special trained hazmat for the paramedic and fire crews if it is a car with lithium batteries.
Right.
They go through special training for that, which should tell you something about it. And the fires that those things have are intense.
Oh, yeah. An example, I had a laptop that before, when we were moving, I guess it's a couple of months back, we were moving, and I dropped this laptop, and it had a lithium-ion battery, and when I dropped it, it ruptured. Dude, it shot flames and sparks and burnt that laptop to a crisp.
It's like orange flame. I mean,
it was hot.
Yeah,
it was a very hot. It was a very hot fire, and there was no way. I mean, I just basically sat there and let it burn out. I got away from it because you're burning polymers, and there's no telling what's coming out of there. So I just kind of backed off of it and let it burn. But it burned for a long time, and it burned exceptionally hot. So that's what you're driving around in these cars. Think about
what's
that.
funny about that is, the whole idea about these cars is to save the environment. Yeah, look at all the materials that are in the car.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like it's made out of bamboo and cornstarch, folks.
Yeah,
This is polymer and plastic and very volatile chemicals that you're against.
For being environmentally friendly, it wasn't environmentally friendly to construct.
Right. Well, I'm just going to share a story I shared with you guys the other day. I was at grocery shopping. My wife asked me to get some things on the way home. I drive a big F-250 diesel.
Yeah.
And this thing... It's a shadow of its former self because of all the emission controls on it.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear of a guy's unlocking these things and they're picking up 100 horsepower and it's the greatest truck ever. Well, I drive the one that's got the warranty on it still, and I have the EGR, the DTE, and everything on it. So I'm clean burning diesel truck. So I pull into the parking lot. And you remember this? So I go pull in the parking lot, I go into the store, and I noticed there was a lady just sitting there kind of staring at me. I was like, oh man, what did I do? So I go in the store, and I'm in and out really quick. I get in my truck, start it up, clatter, 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 of course, like a diesel. I hear a knock on the window. And I look over, and this is the lady. So I'm like, what does she want? So I crack the window about an inch. I say, can I help you? And she goes, no, I'm really more here to help the earth than help you. I'm like, oh no, not one of those.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. So I go, okay, what's the deal? And she goes, well, you know how much pollution these vehicles create, blah, blah, blah. And she went on for like 5 or 10 minutes. And I said, I'll tell you what, you're right. You write me a check for $55,000 right now. I mean, right now. If you really are behind your cause, write me a check for $55,000 and the truck is yours. You can take it, you can burn it, you can drive it off a cliff, you can recycle it. I don't care what you do. But you write me the check. Well, she was kind of backing off. I said, by the way, what do you drive? So she points over to a Prius. It's a hybrid. I go, man, so literally, I know why you didn't buy my truck, because you're only half committed to your car.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you have a car that runs off a gas engine and battery. So when you decide which side of this environmental thing you want to fall on...
Yeah, where's your bicycle at, lady?
Come back and give me a call. And I just drove off and left her in the diesel dust.
That's funny. I forgot about that.
I mean, it's these people have no... I mean, they'll run up there, green this and green that, and you look at all the stuff they're wearing, and it's like, really? I mean, where do you think this stuff comes from?
Take your money and do that. Let's see you spend all your money first before you spend mine. If you're really committed to what you're saying, you throw everything you got into it, and then maybe I'll believe. Up until that point, you're a snake oil salesman.
You better come up to me all dressed in hemp, is what you better be doing.
Look out, he might roll you.
Hemp with sandals on. I hear you. Well, it's funny, though. I mean, to the level of the devotion of these environmentalists, you have to kind of go there. say, wait a minute, where's the hypocrisy here? I mean, you are walking on a street made from asphalt.
Right.
You're sitting in a car made with plastic and fake leather, and look at your clothes. They're all polymer woven, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it comes down to how angry are these people about just themselves.
Well, if you're listening to this and you fall into that category and you're starting to feel like a joke, just kind of laugh at yourself and figure out what you need to do next.
Well, we offer a new 1-800 hotline. It's 1-800-CALL-SAM.
It'll give you all the advice you need.
So we have a crisis intervention specialist with us right here, which should be more than glad to walk you through that glory hole of hell that you're trying to get to.
Good times.
You know?
And I have a membership sticker that I send out to everybody when you become a member. And it's a bumper sticker. Well, actually, it's a sticker you can put anywhere, but it's ideally you put it in the front of your vehicle, and it says "Place pedestrian here."
You can tell how this therapy's going to go.
Yeah, well, I think it's highly effective. That's the nice thing about it. We don't know if it's covered under the Universal Health Care Act yet, but we're working on it.
So now we've got Arizona that's come out, and they are completely on board with autonomous cars, even more so than California at this point. They just recently passed some legislation that allows complete autonomous cars to drive themselves with no driver intervention. Most places, even California, still requires a potential driver behind the wheel that can take control of the vehicle if it starts to malfunction. Arizona just recently signed some legislation. The governor signed it, approved it, and said, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. That you can now have these cars that get out and are totally autonomous, driven by satellite and by data networks and whatever other sensors that they put in these cars to completely drive themselves with no driver input. And I'm not seeing how they're going to support this infrastructure. Nobody's really passed any legislation that says, okay, you need to have so many redundancy systems. You need to have, in other words, there's no teeth in it that says all this has to be in place for this car to be on the road.
But if you cut it off, it will flip you off in ones and zeros.
And I hate to upset the people of Arizona, but this is a wide open state that's not as populated as most. And they just got off of tin cans and strings and went to phones.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like, come on. How do you can't compare. Arizona does it.
Yeah.
But they have all this wide open space to have all these problems at.
It's Scottsdale, which is not a hugely populated town, and the other one escapes me off the top of my head. But Scottsdale was the big one. It was the bigger of the two towns that this whole, I think Uber's got their presence there. What's the other one? Help me out here. Waymo.
Yeah, Waymo
Waymo is
Cruise,
the other presence. Yeah. You have all
Uber
these presences
and Lyft
there.
and all those people.
Yeah, Lyft. Yeah, all those different type of services.
Right.
Well, when you look at Arizona, so you have Scottsdale, Phoenix, Flagstaff, and Tucson.
Right.
No,
That's your big metro.
Yeah.
Those are probably your biggest metroplex
Is
areas.
Flagstaff in Arizona? Is that
Flagstaff, Arizona. Yeah.
Okay.
My uncle pastored the church there.
Sierra Vista, I think, is the most populous when you get further south.
Is it? Yeah. So there's not much there. So I could see where this would be a good test bed for it.
Right.
Until you get it into the city.
Yeah. What are you gonna do in California?
Pinball, man. It's all pinball.
Let's take San Francisco, where you have meth heads wandering the streets, stumbling into traffic. How's that gonna work? No, I mean that's
I agree with you.
It's funny, but it's a serious question.
I'm just picturing this happening, and I'm like, oh my god, can you?
It's train wreck city, man.
That's nuts. Yeah, it goes back to progression of society. I get that, but we're just nowhere near that. I mean, you just mentioned infrastructure. You're talking about a exoskeleton of network of communication that has to be perfect and updated real time every time.
Right.
Hell, I can't even get my phone. I can't hardly update a file sometimes on my phone when I'm out and about. What makes you think you're going to get my car when I'm in rural America?
Right.
If I don't get phone coverage between Cleveland and Cut and Shoot,
right.
What makes you think where's my car? What do I do? Flintstone it all the way to Cleveland? What do I do?
Well, and then go back to what they told you in driver's ed. Remember how long they would tell you you need to count between the cars that are in front of you to be able to stop at a safe speed. Remember, you'd count the seconds
based
off.
on
one car length for every 10 miles an hour or something like that. Yeah.
So now you've got to have a network that can calculate 50 million different variables and then have all the cars work in unison together. Do you realize what type of data network that we're talking about to do that?
Have you ever driven through East Texas when all the what they call love bugs are out?
Yeah.
Then you come back and you used to have a white car. Now it looks like it's a black and white car because the entire front is covered with bugs.
I wonder.
Can you imagine how that's going to work?
Yeah, how's that going to go?
You know,
what variable? I mean, we're talking about a lot of variable. I'm looking at
yeah.
it from a variable. I'm an IT guy, so I'm going to look at this from a variable perspective.
Yeah.
But you also have like sensors or proximity sensors. So to your point about, you know, when you have debris suddenly clinging to the vehicle,
Exactly.
How does that affect the operation of the sensor? You know,
Right.
Are you less sensitive, more sensitive? What if it broke? You know,
Well, that's what I'm talking about with redundancy systems. Well, how many redundancy systems are in these vehicles? I mean, there's no legislation to that effect.
Well, it's funny because the Congress is considering lessening the regulation for these autonomous cars and not holding them to the same safety standard as they do the standard American car.
There's a surprise.
So they're talking about loosening for tens of thousands of these vehicles during tests. And you know, it's funny because look at how many GPSs take you to places you think you're going, but it's not really the place.
Yeah.
And you're literally making circles around blocks. It shows you driving through a field. I mean, it has all these crazy things.
Imagine
man.
you're just riding along and all of a sudden you're in the middle of a cornfield.
now
One
one way to twist this narrative to a positive is, let's just say that you have additional casualties. People die because of, you know, this technology is learning and stuff. So they're not okay. In the books, you're not going to put them down as, you know, these people died because of such and such technology. You're going to call them martyrs.
Yeah. Martyr for the cause.
They gave their life for science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how you tell that story.
You know what though? That's a calculated. I guarantee that's a calculated
it's built
factor.
in. I
It's
guarantee
gotta
you.
be. It's got to be because the greater good for all is more important than the individual.
Some heady bean counter somewhere calculated for all that. I promise you.
A guy that will not ride in
a car. Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Most of those dudes won't do it, which I think is hilarious. Well, I mean, you know, I don't know. I just sit here and I just look at all the things that have to go into it. Let's talk a little bit about the privacy aspect of that.
Exactly.
You know, what are you giving up?
Exactly. Well, you're right. I mean, think about it. Right now, you can jump into your car. You can go around the block. You can drive that thing to Alabama if you want. It doesn't matter. You have the freedom to do that. Now, let's say we're looking at this from the most nefarious ideas that can be put into it. So let's say government, and again, I use that in air quotes, the government wants to control where you're going. They have complete control over where you can go and what you can do at this point. Unless you're willing to get out and walk.
Right.
How many of you are going to get out and walk 6 miles to the mall? You know? Who's doing that?
Yeah.
And then 6 miles
anymore.
back.
Yeah, anymore. Yeah.
Again, that's what I'm pointing at.
Yeah.
You've basically locked people down. So you've, forced people into complying by making them stay home. You can make them do whatever you want at that point.
Now, one thing I can say is, because of the advancement of technology,
Right.
you actually have made people lazier.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, definitely.
So,
For sure.
It takes a lot more work. I will say, it takes a lot more work to drive my Mustang than it does to drive my wife's Lexus.
Right.
I mean, I'm shifting gears. I'm working a clutch. You know, I get into the Lexus, I push a button.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
All my knobs and dials in my Mustang are manual. I mean, you have to reach down and crank them and set them and turn them to where they're just right to get the desired effect. The Lexus, you can almost talk to it, and it'll do what you want it to do. I don't even have to move.
So you know, can you imagine a millennial driving a car that we drove in the 70s?
Oh my God!
So you know,
It'd be a big smoke show. That car would just be on
what's this
fire.
little silver knob up in the upper left?
What's a clutch?
I'm thinking of the
Silver
old.
knob in the upper
yeah.
left?
I'm thinking of the old foot starters on the floor.
Yeah.
With that and the high beams.
Yeah, high
Yeah.
beams. Well, you know, they would be the first ones to get their feet tangled up in the steering wheel.
Well, that's an option I didn't decide. I decided not to go forward with.
I had a girlfriend. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, think about it. I mean, my first vehicle was an old 50-something, 53 Chevy truck. And it was a 6-cylinder, and it had a foot starter, 3 on the tree. And all my controls were very basic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, you just learn how to drive. I mean, you were out there and you were having fun. You couldn't kill that truck. And if I wrecked it, guess what? We took it to the barn, heated it up, beat the part back out,
Yep.
got some Rust-Oleum, painted it, or I'd go find like a rear end out of another Chevy truck.
Right.
Or another, and just pop it right under there. You can't do that with cars nowadays.
No.
Everything is all connected by serial number and circuit number now. So I mean, it's a whole different world now.
So I'll update my assessment. Not only did it make you lazy physically, it made you lazy mentally.
That's right.
Because knowing that you can take that part, go into the garage, apply some heat to it, and then allow some brute force and beat it sort of back to the
original shape.
To the shape, yeah. So
yeah, it's all that comes into play. I mean, you stop and you think about now they can use where you went against you.
That's the other thing is tracking.
Yeah.
They're going to know it'll be another digital footprint of where you are.
They do this with truck drivers, and they do this with company trucks and service trucks. They actually track them, and you can do it with your phone now with your friend. If he has his phone in the car, you can basically see where they're going. So the technology is still there. We get that, but it's your choice to use it or not, or it's a condition of employment or not.
Right.
We're not talking about forcing. Now they're talking about forcing everybody on this technology, which is a big shift in my rights as a citizen of this United States of America.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. Right now, I have the ability to leave my phone at home, and if you I don't want you tracking me. I've left my phone at home, so you don't know. You can't look at my phone. Not that I have anything to hide. I'm not saying that, but dude, realize what your freedoms are.
Yeah.
Enjoy your freedoms that you have, because you're going to lose them. You're willingly giving them away at this point, and that's what's so disturbing about this. Is so many people want to jump in and just give it to whoever, not necessarily the government, the big corporations, whoever wants that data. You're just giving it to them.
Sure.
Why do that?
And think about it. Cars are very personal. That's why there's so many of them.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many levels of comfort. Now, the one thing that I find interesting is the custom car guy. So think about the guy that owns the custom car. Now, it's a thing of passion for them. There's been either a memory connected to the car,
Sure.
sometime in their life they're trying to relive. So you're looking now at a guy that is a nonconformist in their eyes, because they're like, oh, a car just gets you A to B, doesn't need to do anything. Well, you got a guy that is passionate about a Mustang or a Chevy pickup truck that also supplies the afterparts market.
Yeah.
We're customizing these vehicles, and we're doing things with them because they're ours.
but it's a demographic that's been relabeled.
Yes,
You used to be passionate about something, now you're a nonconformist.
that's right.
Yeah.
And that's how these people
that's a
do
good
it.
point, Graham.
And they're very incrementalist that way.
Yeah.
And they look at it like, well, you're not earth friendly, you're against the environment, so you must be one of these people.
Well, and that's how they're going to get you to these driverless cars. They're going to come out, and you're going to see the CDC come out and say, well, we did a study on vehicles, and
Right.
so many people die every year in this, so we're going to label this as some sort of health hazard.
Right.
Driving has now become the same as smoking or whatever other nonconformist.
If you write the narrative the right way, you could sell it.
Absolutely.
Well, I've seen the article where they're going to go and collect all the deer out of the woods, and they're going to replace them with autonomous robot deer that know better to cross the road.
Right.
Because that's the number one cause of vehicular deaths in America. Texting is running right up behind it, but deer...
I did not know that. I would have thought texting would have definitely
go to the
flown
insurance
past that.
numbers, and they'll tell you that people hitting an animal,
Yeah.
wildlife, but
Yeah.
I would say wildlife, but mostly deer. Look at all
Yeah.
the dead deer on the side of the road that you pass.
That's true.
It's a ton of them, even in our urban areas. There's deer everywhere. And, and that can go off into a whole nother environmental discussion.
Well, and what they'll do is they'll just say, we need to all live in the city and
Yeah.
not go to the country.
I just realized there are people out there capturing deer, and they're putting like little collection devices on them, like satellites. So if you're in the woods, okay, although you're not in your car, and maybe you left your phone behind, but there will be some sort of a tracking.
Think about that as a variable.
Yeah.
A radio signal on an animal.
So remember, deer shed their antlers every year.
Well,
Yeah.
So you remember some redneck is out there picking up these antlers, running around. Can you hear me now? And
Yeah.
boom! Shot.
Well, and
That would just not go so well in East Texas. I'm just
Right.
telling you.
Yeah, you definitely have to implant that under the skin or
then-
something.
Please, if it's fine, please return to.
when you shoot one of these deer that is like the vehicle for this technology, you'll have this pile of stuff, pile of things that you don't eat from the deer.
Yeah.
And it'll be
Radio
It'll be
transmitters.
guts and radio transmitters and satellite.
I hope we just haven't given away an idea that they're going to consider. Oh, those guys are genius.
But I will put it back on the mount if I feel like putting it on the wall.
Well, that's what I was going to
There
say.
you
When you mount, check out the transmitter on
Yeah.
this one, man.
My Wi-Fi went way up when I put that in.
Perfect.
Oh,
That
no.
is perfect.
It is, and it's with I don't know. It just gets frustrating at times because that there's more to what it is that they don't like about you owning a car because they're making it so damn expensive.
Yeah.
It's
look
so
at the taxation
expensive.
that we've talked about.
Sure.
Where in California now, when you pull up to the pump, you're paying a tax to drive your car.
Have they instituted that?
They've
yet?
tested it in several
they
areas,
have tested
and
it.
they've been fighting it in court for like 10 years. And what they want to do,
wow.
oh yeah, it's been a huge battle, because when I used to rent cars there, and you would always get this notification, and it would tell you where they were doing these things.
Well, that goes. What I was telling you earlier offline was, you've got a group of guys sitting in a room somewhere that nobody
think
knows
tank.
about, coming up with taxation vehicles that are not in place now, that will probably take the place of something else when it goes away.
Sure.
But when it gets rolled out, it'll be far more damaging than the one that they got rid of. So if you're paying like a 0.5% of whatever your purchase price is, now you've got this new tax that's going to be exponential in some way. That whatever it was that you were paying with that 5%, you're now
They're not going to let money
Oh
go.
no,
So
no.
They'll never let
the way
money
this
go.
thing works in California is that all gas stations would be linked. When you pull in and put in your credit card, your identification comes up. You plug in your miles on your car,
Right.
and then it calculates that tax, and it charges you right there. So if I drive down the road and fill up again, it knows exactly how many miles I've driven in X amount of time. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about hitting you for miles on the road.
But I will say this: is all this technology is being rolled out because you, goddamn it, will not. You refuse to allow a RFID chip to be put underneath your skin.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But they will put it in your tire, though.
Right.
They will put it in
yeah,
your tire.
okay.
They will put them in a vehicle, because when you look at toll tags, the next level of toll tag is just build it into the car.
Right.
Your car now will be the identifier for a toll tag. Think about that. Because if you want to really make this convenient, instead of going from state to state having to have a different toll tag, why don't you just make a universal highway toll tag? Why don't you just make every highway?
And we'll just make a
Yeah.
federal entity that
Yeah,
collects the tax and
Yeah.
distributes it to whatever brother-in-law they want to distribute
sure,
it to.
because it'll eliminate all your county corruption with these toll road dollars.
Right.
True.
And it would just contribute to the governmental corruption.
Exactly.
I
At
have
the next
had-
level up there.
I have had some issues with these toll.
Oh, they're terrible.
These toll road entities.
Have you been billed like double billed and stuff like that? I've gotten what was the one that they pulled on me a couple of months back? I was on the toll road and they tried to double bill me on a bunch of charges. I'm like, wait a minute. I know I have like I know what I spend every month on the tolls. It falls within a range, right?
Sure.
That had doubled. I'm like, I hadn't done that much driving. I haven't changed. So I had to call and argue with like 20 different people
Oh, yeah.
before I finally found somebody. They were just determined. They were like, just pay it. You just pay it and be done with it.
Here's what happened with me. I went. I think I was in Fort Bend County. I was going to my cousin's house. So if you've ever traveled that Fort Bend toll road that strictly goes out to like Sienna Plantation. So, and I think it was those particular toll booths. And it was somebody who they were booths that were not operated by Texas
Texot.
or Houston or Harris County.
Right.
So what they did is and they weren't communicating with Harris County, who is where my tag is through.
Right.
So what they did is, there was one violation, and then every time you passed through a toll booth, that was the multiplier.
Extra money,
That was
yeah.
the multiplier.
Wow.
Right.
So I never received anything in the mail because I did have an issue with my account, which I got cleared up. And then this notification arrived like 2 or 3 months after I cleared it up. But here's what it went to. There was like $16 in fees that had been racked up because of this.
Oh, yeah.
this
They'll
thing.
kill you on
So
those.
what they did is they sent it to collections. So I got a notification from a law firm that what they did is they added their fee was $25 to every one of those violations. So now it was $116 violation. I'm
Right.
like, you're fucking crazy.
I'm not paying that.
Number one is you had every opportunity to get in contact with me so we could clear this up at this level. The moment you escalated it, and they told me that their policy was, hey, after X amount of days it goes to collections. Well, to me, the way it sounds is if somebody drops the ball in notifying somebody, but your hard target of after 30 or 45 days expires, you send it to collections, then you've met your requirement. Now it's more important that you get it to your collections person than to clear the
clear it
problem
up.
with me at when it immediately becomes when I immediately become notified. So anyway,
well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I had kind of the same thing with my toll tag. This was another instance in which they tried to kind of do the same thing to me. What had happened was the Harris County Toll Authority had a malfunction on their system, and they said, we knew that you had a toll tag, but you could no longer read the data. So all they could do is take license plates at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So they gathered my license plate and then turned around and said, you owe us the same thing. You owe us $1 a pass on this deal as opposed to the normal fee. And we just expect you to pay. And I'm like, what's wrong with you people? You admitted in your own letter that you were wrong in this instance, and now here we are paying. It goes back to the whole nefariousness of how this whole system's going to work. So let's take this instance and apply it to these smart cars.
Right.
And what they're going to try to, these autonomous cars, what they're going to try to charge you for fees and taxes and everything else that's applied to it.
Right.
It's never, you're never going to get it right. You're always going to come up with a bill that's off.
And so these are the same people that are going to be in charge of the guidance systems.
Right.
This is the same network that's going to take care of your safety while you're in the car. And we've been talking individually. What about families?
Yeah.
What about a family? What if a family, if they have a safety requirement that says, well, no more than 4 can occupy this car?
Oh yeah,
What do you do? What do you do with the 5th child or the 5th adult?
Pay the tax, probably.
Pay the tax or get a separate vehicle.
Right. Let the child drive himself.
Because they'll determine what the safe zones in these cars are for their liability. So let's look at airplanes. What if you have to get the extra strap for the seatbelt?
Yeah, that's true.
We're crossing into that whole area now. So I mean, there's a lot of things I don't believe they thought about when they did this. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, you can kind of give them credit for it, but we were talking earlier. Okay, so they do this. Say they make special lanes.
Right.
Special lanes on the road. Well, shit, we don't have enough lanes now.
Oh yeah, for the early adopters.
Look at Katy Freeway. Yeah, look at 10. Isn't that the widest stretch of highway in the United States of America right now?
Still backed up.
Yeah, and it's still backed up. So we were talking about tubes.
Yeah.
Just shoot you right up a tube.
So
there you go.
Tube network, or a network of tubes.
Yeah, just put a network of tubes. I mean, since you're going to put the oil and gas guys out of business, they got to build something.
Right.
Might as well build pipelines.
Yeah.
The nice thing about Houston is when it floods, it becomes a gigantic water park.
That's right.
That's right.
Then we can charge admission.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's just so many things that can go wrong with this. But when I boil it down to it, I just look at it as like, and I just look, there's a group of angry people that just don't like the fact that you can spend your money the way you want.
Go where you want,
when you want to do it.
Right.
And I think that's what it comes down to. So what they're going to do is they're going to sit there and they're going to figure out ways to regulate you out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they did this back years ago with the when they spent all these millions of dollars in the state of Texas to put these emission test centers in. And that flew for about a year or so.
Right.
And then lawsuits piled up, and then all of a sudden that entire infrastructure shut down. And what did we get stuck with? We got stuck with the bill for empty buildings that are still, to this day, you can see the skeletons of some of them that haven't been converted to other businesses. So we're looking at that. So we're looking at a group of people that, one, do not like the fact that industrial America, because cars stand for industrial America.
Yep.
They just do. They stand for the individual. You look at the guys that are given credit for starting the muscle car and custom car craze, it's going to be returning soldiers.
Yeah.
Soldiers that have returned from war. World War II you can give credit to all these cars to guys coming back from World War II.
And I can speak to that. So when I was at Fort Leonard Wood and, well, actually just about every Army base I ever went to, you could always tell who had just come back from deployment, because they were the guy that had the brand new freaking vehicle, because they took their combat pay,
Yeah.
and you get paid well when you've reached a certain rank. If you have no responsibilities when you're coming home, and all you can do is just go out and blow it on some vehicle, because I had several training sergeants that they drove some nice vehicles when the Cuda or the Challenger first came out, when the Camaro first came out. That's what they were blowing that deployment money on.
Right.
It was brand new freaking vehicles. That's where it went.
And you had the era that we're taking and chopping up the 51 Mercurys, the 57 Chevrolets. I mean, you're looking at some of those. If you go back to like American Graffiti type days where you saw these cars, these were the pioneers of the automotive customization industry. And you look at today, the millions and millions of dollars. There's television shows devoted on cable network now of people with money upgrading their cars to extreme proportion.
Right.
Not just speed, but comfort and appeal.
Right.
And so we're looking at that industry, and like I said, a lot of these people making these decisions don't give you any credence for that. They don't think that that's
if they
necessary.
put them out of business, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter to them.
No,
not at all. And so you have to ask yourself, what does it boil down to then? Okay, so we know they don't like the titans of American automotive industry because look what they've done to that. They've basically destroyed those guys. I mean,
they don't like individualism.
Not
that's
at
for
all.
sure.
Pontiac, are you kidding? Some of the muscle cars that Pontiac put out for years. You have to kind of think along the lines like they do, and why these companies are getting destroyed like they are. So the elite muscle cars that are still out there would be the Corvettes and things like that, but you can't do much to them unless you're a computer guy. So you look at all these things, oil and gas. They don't like fracking,
right?
But then they don't mind mining for lithium.
Right,
which I think is just absolutely stunning. They don't want you using the roads as much as you do, so they're trying to make it expensive enough where you won't take the family vacations anymore.
Right.
You use public transportation or you'll stay local. Parking, you can't even go enjoy a ball game anymore without paying anywhere between $50 and $200 for a parking lot, depending on what's going on.
Depending on what market you're in.
Yeah, sure. Think about
Okay, let's just say your experience was like $50 here in Houston.
What is it in New York or Chicago?
In New York, exactly. New York, Chicago, LA.
Probably exponentially more.
Oh my god!
So the parking is just amazing. That's a $20 billion a year industry.
Right.
I just read a statistic for 2017.
Right.
That's a $20 billion industry, parking.
Wow.
And that probably doesn't count for the guys that we're talking about charging the $50 that's normally $10 is now $50.
Right.
It's probably not even counting those guys. Think about that money. Think about what they're missing out on. They're not controlling that money. Because,
Graham, I'd be willing to say it's so limited in Chicago and New York that it's almost non-existent. They expect people to take a train or
yes,
you know what I mean.
Yes.
And if you did park there, it's got to be
I will say,
$200, $300.
Like what Ken said earlier, is it's kind of the fabric of that location. Public transportation is normal for Chicago, New York. But when you start getting into to municipalities that practice urban sprawl,
Houston,
like
prime
Houston,
examples probably
LA, although LA is the same way, but you've got little pockets around the communities there where you have people that only stay in that area, like where I live. I know people that don't really go outside of that
because you have everything there.
Yeah,
restaurants,
right
stores,
there.
everything. Yeah, it's funny because the whole parking thing keeps you from going places. How many times have you decided, hey, I want to go eat there, and then you go, oh, the parking's horrible. I can't park.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's an impact to that guy. The guy that's struggling to keep his business open in a city area,
sure,
where parking's not available.
And where we live, when you go into the downtown Houston, that is the mentality that you'll be hit with. Oh my God, parking is atrocious. I don't want to go. Whereas I think the same way, but the way I mitigate that is, do they have valet?
Yeah,
only because I'm willing to pay that.
So
and not have to go.
That comes to another statistic. They're saying that the average driver spends 17 or more hours a year looking for a place to park their car.
Yeah, 17
more a year.
That's crazy.
Looking for a place to park their car. But you just sit there and you look at they feel like you cannot make your own decisions.
Right.
And if you do, it's not good ones.
Right.
Well, and this is what the whole thing comes down to, one thing, and it's control. When you really boil it all down, what is it that they're pushing you into with these cars? And it's complete and utter control.